Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Silent Swordsman Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for February 2021. I'm a big fan of all of the Silent level series monsters, including the Silent Swordsman and the Silent Magician series, all focusing on leveling up to the different forms of the Silent Swordsman monsters. It was a card used by Yugi during the final season of the original series, and we've gotten a bunch of support throughout the years for the deck just to make it that much stronger of a deck as a whole. And working with some of the extra deck cards we have makes for a very, very fun and I would say sort of lockdown playstyle, since this card stops spell cards from being activated once you hit Silent Swordsman level 7 status. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. Now, being a Silent Swordsman deck, I wanted to include all of the lineup from level 3 to 5 to 7. So I'm running 3 Silent Swordsman level 3. You can negate your opponent's spell effects that target this card. During your standby phase, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to special summon 1 Silent Swordsman level 5 from your hand or deck. You cannot activate the effect the turn this card was summoned or flip face up. So with it, you have easy access to your next card in the lineup, which is Silent Swordsman level 5, and just an easy card to special summon out, since we have plenty of resources in the extra deck as well to summon out warrior monsters, since I decided to go with the sold lineup and the different equip spells. Since we can't activate spells, we can at least send them to the graveyard for resources to special summon out our many different warrior monsters we run in the deck, with Silent Swordsman level 3 being our first go-to one as the first lineup, and the one we want to search out the most with the spell cards that we do run in the lineup for our plays. For some of the additional support, I also run 3 Silent Swordsman level 5. With this one, it's unaffected by your opponent's spell effects. During your next standby phase, after this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to special summon 1 Silent Swordsman level 7 from your hand or deck. So what's great about it is even if you open up the card in your hand, you can still special summon it out into the field, but also for the fact that it's unaffected by your opponent's spell effects. So even if they try and destroy it with, let's say, a spell card, this one, Silent Swordsman level 3, just stops this card from being targeted by spells. You go a step better with level 5 just being unaffected. So if they Regeki, Dark Hole, you name it, it won't work on this card. But I like to run 3 of it. It's just a very easy card to summon out onto the field. Even with the amount of equip spells we're running, you can still potentially summon it out with your Isolde if you don't open up any of the equip spells. So that's a great option there also, just then being able to rely on this to attack into our opponent and then go for the level 7 boss monster, which I'm only running 2 Silent Swordsman level 7. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by Silent Swordsman level 5. Cannot be special summoned by other ways. You negate all spell effects on the field. So with this, you don't really want to focus too much on spells in the deck once you have your Silent Swordsman level 7 set up, for the fact that you won't be able to use them. But still great, because spell cards are very vital to a good amount of different decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! So being able to stop them with Silent Swordsman level 7 makes it all the better for sure. I only run 2 of this card though. It has to either be special summoned by our next card or with the original level lineup. So with this as our option, you want to at least have resources available to you to special summon it out onto the field, and then just make it that much more difficult for your opponent to get over this card. And then for the additional Silent Swordsman support, and probably the best card in the deck, is Silent Swordsman. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by tributing 1 warrior type monster, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn during the standby phase, this card gains 500 attack. And once per turn during either player's turn when a spell is activated, that you can basically negate the activation. And if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 Silent Swordsman monster from your hand or deck, except for Silent Swordsman, ignoring the summoning conditions. So this is definitely the fastest way to go about summoning out Silent Swordsman level 7, and this card can remain as a boss monster by itself for the fact that it gains attack during each standby phase, and just having some of our other power options to boost this card's power with cards like Silent Sword Slash make it all the better for sure. You definitely want to run 3 of this card. The fact that it's also searchable by Isolde for one of the plays I'll go over at the end of the video makes it all the better, and the fact that you could just summon it out by summoning Silent Swordsman level 3, then tributing it to summon Silent Swordsman, makes for a much better boss monster on the field for your opponent to get around. For more of the search power as well, I run 3 Silent Paladin. When this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 Silent Swordsman level 3 or Silent Magician level 4 from your deck to your hand, with this deck being the focus of Silent Swordsman level 3. And during either player's turn, when a spell card is activated that targets exactly 1 monster you control and no other cards, you can negate the activation. The effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. If this card is destroyed by battle or in its owner's control by a card effect, you can target 1 light level 3 monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So with the light level option, you have recycle power for all of the monsters. I might have said level 3, but it could be any of the light level monsters that you have set up, just not the Silent Swordsman, since it doesn't have the level in its name, but still a great search and setup card altogether for your resources, just to stick with giving you a warrior monster to then use for the Silent Swordsman card, since this card is a fairy type monster and not a warrior. If it was a warrior, it would definitely be a lot more broken, but I think they tried to balance it out between the fact that you can use this card with Silent Magician and Silent Swordsman. They didn't really want to pick one type for this card to be, because then it would basically not function properly for the other card, or not as well altogether. For some of the more generic support for the deck, I also run 3 Goblinberg, with the Summon of Isolde being a big part of the play. Just having a warrior monster that can summon out more monsters on the field that much more quickly is a big play for sure, and the fact that it summons level 4 or lower means we can still summon out Silent Swordsman level 3, or our next go-to monster, with it just being an easy special summon, and that being Junk Forward. If you control no monsters, special summon this card from your hand. So even if you go first, you can special summon this card, and then summon out another warrior monster, and then go for the Link to play right then and there. And with this card being a level 3, and Silent Swordsman being a level 3, you have rank 3 Xyz plays to go into. The same with Goblinberg, and also your Silent Paladin being a level 4 for rank 4 plays. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Silent Sword Slash. You target one Silent Swordsman monster you control. That monster you control gains 1500 attack and defense, and if it does, until the end of this turn, it's unaffected by your opponent's card effects. This card's activation and effect cannot be negated. You can banish this card from your graveyard to add one Silent Swordsman monster from your deck to your hand. So altogether, with the power boost that it provides to the Silent Swordsman monster, it's also why I like to run level 5 and 3, because if you need that power boost, it's not going to work on level 7, since you can't activate spells, but it will work on level 3 and level 5 and Silent Swordsman, keeping the 1500 boost, and also until the end of the turn, that only applies to the being affected by your opponent's cards. The 1500 attack will stay with this card, and then if you summon out level 7 and this card's in your graveyard, you can at least just get another search onto the field, and that's why I like to run 3 of it. It's a quick play as well, so just being able to set this card up with some of the trap cards we run for the additional backup is why I like running it for that easy setup. And also for the equip spells, I run the 1 Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. Great for the warrior setup, but mostly in here for the Isolde play. But once it's in the graveyard, I can easily just be summoned and added back to my hand for the warrior banish. The 1 DDR Different Dimension Reincarnation, 1 Moonmere Shield, 1 Power of the Guardians, and 1 Living Fossil. I just run the 5. And like I said, these are just in here for the Isolde play. You don't have to worry about the level 7 spell negation, because they're just going to be sent to the graveyard for special summoning out more warrior type monsters onto the field with Isolde, thinning out the deck also. I also run 1 Pot of Avarice, 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 Reinforcements of the Army. Not running a huge spell lineup, just for the fact, like I said, that level 7 negates all spell effects on the field, so you don't want to have to focus on them too much. With these cards just being resources for recycling, special summoning from the graveyard, and adding a particular warrior monster to our hand, most of the time adding Silent Swordsman, because we have the other setup already on the field and just need the boss monster to get out. And that is it for these spells. You run a pretty good trap lineup, with the first being the 3 back to the front special summoning resources, even if you're on your opponent's turn, on their end of their turn, summoning out level 3, and then going on to your turn makes for an easy way to summon out level 5 onto the field with this trap card, or just giving you more resources on the field for you to use for your plays. I also run 3 Solemn Strike. I like cards that can protect my Silent Swordsman monster. When I boost its attack with Silent Sword Slash, it's very difficult to get over. If my opponent tries to make a monster, at least get rid of this card, I have the Solemn Strike in the way, Nightmare Unicorn being a big one for sure, or Cerberus just trying to destroy that card, and this is just great protection to stop that play altogether that my opponent will invest in. And then lastly, for the trap card lineup, I also run the 3 Infinite Impermanence, just a great effect negation. I didn't really want to focus on the hand traps much in this deck like Ash Blossom, just for the fact that I was trying to stick to as big of the warrior lineup that I could run, with Silent Paladin being the only exception for its search power, and Infinite Impermanence comes in handy. It's just, once again, if my opponent can't use their spells, I can't use them either because of level 7. I can rely on my heavy trap lineup, whether it be the Solemn Strike negation on the field, or the Infinite Impermanence from my hand even. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I do run 2 Isolde, 2 Tales of the Noble Knights. I know I only have enough equip spells for normally 1 special summon, but just being able to add another warrior monster when this card is summoned means I can get my resource for Silent Swordsman that much more quickly to my hand to use. I can't tribute it the turn it's summoned, because I can't summon monsters the turn I use this search effect, but I can still, if Isolde survives next turn, or I have another warrior monster, tribute it out, and then get out my main boss monster with that play. I also run the 1 Hippotion Nengen with all the different light monsters I'm running. It's just an easy boost power card for all my monsters. 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and 1 Borolo Dragon, just running a pretty generic Link monster lineup for these cards, because most of the time the one I go into the most is a Sold, and I run the 2 just in case my opponent tries to stop the first summon before I even have a chance to send off the equip spells to the graveyard. And for the Xyz monsters, I run 1 Leviair the Sea Dragon, 1 Ghost Trick Alucard, 1 number 47 Nightmare Shark, 1 Baguska, 1 Heroic Champion Excalibur, 1 Gaga Cowboy, and the 1 Abyss Dweller, varying back and forth between the rank 3 and rank 4 plays, just because with Silent Swordsman level 3 and our Junk Forward, and then our other Silent Paladin and Silent Swordsman along with Goblinberg plays for these monsters. And they're just options to go into if I need them for any of those plays. And then as for some of the go-to plays, relying on Silent Swordsman level 3 to tribute out Silent Swordsman is the one I do most commonly, then having the plenty of back row just to defend this card. And if my opponent does get over this card, I at least have the option to special summon out Silent Swordsman level 7. So once they get over 1 hurdle, not only do they have not just 1 negation to worry about, but 1 additional monster on the field that just stops all spells in general. If you go for the initial play, which involves the Sold, you will summon out Goblinberg, giving you another special summon of a level 4 lower monster, which would be Silent Swordsman level 3. Going for the Link play, you can then rely on a Sold, which will then search out your Silent Swordsman, and then depending on how many of the equip spells you have in your hand, if you get lucky and only have the 1, that's still enough to special summon out the resource for Silent Swordsman level 3 back onto the field, and you just have to send 3. So even opening up 2 in your hand will be plenty for this. If you have all 5 still in the deck, you can send all 5 and then summon out your Silent Swordsman level 5 on the field, and then just giving you enough resource. If your Soul can clear out the monster path, you can use your Silent Swordsman level 5 to hit for direct damage and then summon out your level 7 before you even have the chance to use the resource of the Silent Swordsman in your hand to tribute out for the Assault on play. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I just want to do a quick update to the Silent Swordsman deck. It's still a deck I love testing and just playing with to see the different playstyles that change. I wonder if we'll ever get any additional support for it, with the hope that with the new Armed Dragon Thunder cards that we got recently, and the fact that that was a Chaz deck and this is a Yugi deck, there's a good chance we could see some update to this in the near future. Same with this and Silent Magician. But until then, and until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.